Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to another installment in the Sydney Railroad build. If you're watching last week, you will have seen me lay track in the main staging yard. This week I'm going to continue track laying, but on the visible portion of the railroad. The technique is slightly different here in that I want to get invisible feeders soldered underneath the rail. Doing it that way does mean that I have to know exactly what colour wires I'm going to use for each rail before I can lay any track. So once those colours are worked out, I may as well get the bus wires in first as a reminder. So that's what I did. I didn't make any video clips while I was doing the bus wires. I thought I had, but if I did, I can't find them. Maybe they've been deleted. I know I did have a computer crash about that time, so maybe I lost some. Anyway, that's enough of a diversion, so without further ado, let's just head out into the workshop and lay some more track. Well, after completing the long task of wiring up this side, my task for this morning is to start on track laying through the Scenic section. I'm going to start here and work my way around. I'm not sure how far I'll get today. It's going to be a little bit slower than the hidden tracks in the staging yards because I'm going to be installing feeders under the rails as I go. That takes a lot longer, but it is neater. Anyway, I'm going to turn the camera off and get to work. Stay tuned, I will see you again later. Well, that is as far as I got this morning. I know it doesn't look like much, but it was a short session. I came out late and I went in early because I needed to make some phone calls before lunch. I think now that I've got a system, it should go a little bit faster. It'll still take longer than doing it without the feeders, but at least I don't have to come back and wire it later. That's all done as part of the same step. One thing I did discover that was a little unexpected is that I've got to be very careful where the feeder wires go because they have a habit of trying to push the track sideways, causing kinks. So I've started drilling larger holes. Anyway, I'm now going to move on to the rolling section. I'm going to have to do it with the section closed, which means I'm not going to have the luxury of being able to walk around both sides. So I have to do everything from the same side of the railroad. Anyway, I'm going to get back to work and I'll check in with you later. With attaching the feeders to the bottom of the rails instead of to the side, the turnout's the most complex. Here's one that I've just done. It's got to have 5 feeder wires attached to it. There are 4 feeders at the exit end of the turnout, 2 to each bus wire, and then 1 green wire to the frog. And of course all of those have to be drilled in the right place. My technique is to offer the turnout up, making sure that I've lined it up with the rail joiners properly. And then I mark the side with a black Sharpie, both along there and across where the frog is, and then drill those oversized holes. The next bit I need both hands for, so I'll put the camera down, but I've got to work all 5 wires through the holes, pull it down, and make sure it still fits. And then loosen the wires enough to turn it over to put the glue on. So I am ready to install this turnout now. So don't go away, I will be right back. The first thing I did this morning was to recycle the weights, and I've also put a test meter on it. Since all the feeders are being done at the same time, I wanted to make sure that I tested for mistakes before I went any further. Obviously I couldn't do that yesterday while I had weights on the track because that would have registered dead shorts everywhere. Anyway, I'm pleased to report that there are no mistakes. I've got continuity where it's supposed to be, and no shorts, and no cross connections between the 2 sections. So I'm going to continue this morning. I'm going to get the main lines done through this next section as far as the start of this bridge, and then I'm going to come back and work in the corner where these 2 industrial spurs are. At the moment, there's a lot of tools and stuff there. So by leaving that till later, I don't have to clean up just yet. I can move on to the area where there's nothing in the way, and most of the tools that I need for the next bit are already here anyway. So let me just turn the camera off and continue, and I will be right back. Well, I've decided to use a slightly different approach this morning on this long gradual curve along the main line. The reason for that being that I noticed when I hooked it up that this piece of track was slightly in the wrong place resulting in a bit of a kink. So I've cut the glue with a long knife blade, and now I'm going to re-glue that, but I'm going to do the whole 10-foot length in one go, and then work on the other track. That way I can sight along it and adjust it to my heart's content until I'm happy with it. So let me do that, and I'll be right back. Well, I'm reasonably happy with that alignment now. Let me put the camera at the end so we can see along it. I think that's about as kink-free as I'm going to get it. Unfortunately, there's no way of working to a straight edge or a curved template because I simply don't have a 10-mile radius template. Anyway, I'm going to put the camera down so I can set weights on it, and I will then continue with the other track. Don't go away. Well, there is the second track laid and lined up with the first one and kink-free. I didn't have to lift the inner track here because I didn't have that kink at the end. It was already pointing in the right direction. But I did have to make sure that I kept the right track spacing all the way along, which I normally use 2 1/8. I had to squeeze it down slightly at this end because the bridge requires an even 2-inch track spacing. So at this point, it's about 2 1/16, and it will be down to 2 1/8 by the time it gets onto the bridge. Anyway, the main line's done as far as I'm going to do today. I'm going to work on these industrial spurs in the corner. I've got the grain elevator spur at the back, and the front is the team track and scrapyard. Well, that is the third turnout, and both of those spurs installed. I've still got about a foot of track missing at the end of this one on the rolling section. There it is over there. But I am out of weights, and my stomach is telling me it's time to go in for lunch anyway. So I'll do that later. Stay tuned, and I'll be right back. Well, the track laying in this corner is now finished. I've got that last 12-inch piece in, and I've got all the feeder wires hooked up at the bottom and tested. I did get one short. It was easy to find. I had a pair of wires that I had transposed at this point, but it took me less than a minute to find it. Anyway, with this corner completed, I'm going to go straight on to the other end of the room. I will come back and do the bridge later. I'm going to continue from this benchwork joint and work towards this junction. Not quite sure how far I'll get today. I probably won't finish it because with the hidden feeders, the turnouts take a lot longer to install. So I'm going to turn the camera off, get back to work. Stay tuned. I'll check in with you again later. Well, earlier I said I was going to start at this end of the bridge and work my way to the junction. But I realized that it made more sense to start with the junction because the first crossover is not only straddling 2 power districts, but also a benchwork joint. So that one was quite critical. And then once I got that accurately positioned, I felt that it was best to do the same with the other 3 turnouts. None of that is glued in place yet, but all the feeders are in and it's adjusted for alignment. So I can now remove all those turnouts and then glue them down. So let me get that done and I will be right back. The junction is now properly installed, although I haven't yet hooked up the feeder wires at the bottom. I am going to fill in the gap between here and the bridge, and that will probably take me the rest of the day. It's just after 5 o'clock now. Let's see how long that takes. So stay tuned, I'll be right back. Well, that is the 5 pieces of track prepped for filling in this gap. 2 on the back track and 3 on the front. All the feeders are soldered underneath the rails, but I haven't glued anything down yet. Once again, I've got to squeeze the gap between them down from 2 1/8 to 2 inches even as it goes into this board for passing through the bridge. So the next thing to do is to turn those 5 pieces of track over again, put the glue on, and then install them. Stay tuned, I will be right back. Those 5 pieces of track are now properly adjusted, glued down, installed, and everything. The only thing I haven't done is connected the feeder wires at the bottom. I'm going to leave that till tomorrow because it is 5 to 6. The Zeus will want feeding. I think it took me 55 minutes to get those 5 pieces of track installed. Anyway, I will check in with you again tomorrow. Stay tuned, and I will see you then. Well, I didn't wait till tomorrow morning. I came back out again after dinner, and I have now hooked up all the feeder wires, removed the weights, and tested it. Just to make sure there's no shorts, and everything is right. Well, I came out here again last night, and I continued to the west of the junction, all 3 tracks around the end. And this morning I've put in the curved leg of the Y going to the reversing loop. That's not wired up yet, and there are some feeders missing on this double track main line because I ran out of brown wire. Although it's in there, it stops short of the terminal block at the end. So rather than have to splice a piece in, I'm just waiting till the new shipment arrives. It'll be here in a few days, and then I will hook up the rest of the feeders there. But other than that, the track laying is finished all the way along here, except for the bridge. So my plan is to go in now and work on getting the bridge done. I did build all the trusses, but I haven't started on piers yet. And of course I've still got to paint them. So it'll be a while before I can get this bridge in. So I will check in with you then. Well, that's all for this week. As you can see, I got all the track on that side of the room finished, except for the 7-foot section across the bridge. I'm not sure if the bridge is going to be the subject of next week's video, but certainly it'll be released before long. At the time of recording this exit clip, I am in the process of working on it. Whatever it is I produce next week, I hope to see you back here for it. Until then, thanks for watching, and bye for now.